The morning mist hung thick over the Mekong Delta as Lieutenant Commander Jake adjusted his night vision goggles one final time. The six-man SEAL team had been moving through the jungle for 3 hours, their boots making barely a whisper against the damp earth. Intelligence suggested that Colonel, a Russian arms dealer responsible for supplying weapons to 3 different terrorist organizations, was hiding in a compound just 2 clicks ahead. Raised his fist, and the team froze instantly. Through the green haze of his night vision, he could see the outline of concrete walls emerging from the jungle canopy. The compound was larger than expected, with at least 4 buildings visible and what appeared to be guard towers at each corner. This wasn't going to be the simple grab-and-go operation they had planned. Petty Officer First Class Danny, the team's communications specialist, moved silently to side. His dark eyes reflected years of combat experience across 3 different theaters of war. "Sir, thermal imaging shows at least 12 tangos on the perimeter. Looks like they've got RPGs and what might be a 50 cal mounted on the main building." Nodded grimly. The intelligence briefing back at base had mentioned minimal security, maybe 4 guards at most. Someone had either fed them bad information or had been expecting company. Either way, 6 SEALs against 12 well-armed hostiles in a fortified position was far from ideal odds. Chief Petty Officer, their explosive ordnance expert, crawled forward through the undergrowth. His massive frame moved with surprising grace for someone who stood 6'4" and weighed 230 pounds. Had been blowing things up professionally for the Navy for 12 years, and his steady hands had saved more lives than anyone could count. "Boss, I'm seeing motion sensors along the fence line. These guys aren't taking any chances." The youngest member of the team, Petty Officer Second Class Tommy, barely 24 years old but already a veteran of 2 deployments, was monitoring their 6 o'clock position. His baby face fooled a lot of people, but had reflexes like a cat and could field strip an M4 blindfolded in under 30 seconds. "All clear on our back trail, sir. Whatever happens, we won't have any surprises coming from behind." Studied the compound through his scope. The main building was 3 stories tall, concrete construction with narrow windows that would make assault extremely difficult. Guard towers provided overlapping fields of fire across the entire approach. Whoever had designed this place knew what they were doing. The arms dealer wasn't just hiding here, he was dug in like a tick. Petty Officer First Class Rick Santos, their medic and designated marksman, moved up beside. Santos carried a customized M110 sniper rifle that he treated better than most people treated their children. His medical training made him invaluable for keeping the team healthy, but his shooting skills had saved their lives more times than could remember. "Sir, I can see movement in the main building, 3rd floor. Looks like our target might be up there." The plan had been simple when they left base 6 hours ago. Insert by boat, move through the jungle, neutralize minimal security, grab and extract to the river where their patrol boat would be waiting. Now, looking at what amounted to a small fortress, knew they needed to adapt quickly or risk losing the mission entirely. "Raise base, tell them we need immediate support," whispered into his comm unit. "Start looking for weak points in their defenses. Maintain overwatch. Santos, find me a shooting position where you can cover our approach." As the team began to reposition, couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong beyond just the unexpected security. The jungle was too quiet. Birds should be calling, insects should be buzzing, but there was an unnatural silence that made his skin crawl. In his 8 years as a SEAL, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now every instinct was screaming danger. His voice crackled softly through the comm system. "Sir, base is not responding. All communications are being jammed. We're on our own out here." Felt his stomach drop. Without communications, they couldn't call for backup, couldn't coordinate with their extraction team, and couldn't even warn headquarters if things went sideways. They were effectively cut off in hostile territory with no way to call for help. Had crawled forward to study the compound's defenses more closely. When he returned, his expression was grim. "Boss, this place is locked down tight. Motion sensors, infrared cameras, and what looks like automated defensive systems. Someone spent serious money turning this into a hardened position." Santos had found a position about 200 meters from the compound with a clear view of the main building. His voice came through the comm system steady and professional. "Sir, I count at least 16 hostiles now, not 12. Looks like more are moving into position. They definitely know we're here." Realized they were facing a trap. Hadn't just been hiding in the jungle, he had been waiting for them. Someone had fed him information about the SEAL team's mission, and now they were walking into a carefully prepared ambush. The arms dealer wasn't just a target anymore, he was the hunter, and they were the prey. The sound of automatic weapons fire suddenly shattered the jungle silence. Muzzle flashes erupted from the compound as bullets tore through the vegetation around their position. Dove for cover behind a fallen log as bark and leaves exploded around him. The team scattered, each man finding whatever protection the jungle could provide. "Contact, contact!" His voice shouted through the comm system as he returned fire with his M4 rifle. Multiple hostiles engaging from the compound. Santos's sniper rifle cracked twice in quick succession and saw one of the muzzle flashes from a guard tower go dark. But almost immediately, heavy machine gun fire began raking their position. The 50 caliber rounds were turning trees into splinters and making any movement extremely dangerous. "We need to fall back," his voice called out as an RPG round exploded 30 meters to their left, sending dirt and debris flying through the air. "This position is compromised." New was right, but falling back meant abandoning the mission. Would disappear into the jungle, probably forever, and the intelligence that had cost 3 agents their lives to obtain would be wasted. There had to be another option, some way to salvage this operation before it became a complete disaster. As bullets continued to snap overhead, made a decision that would change everything. "Santos, how's your ammunition?" "Enough for maybe 10 more shots, sir," came the reply. "But I can't get a clear angle on their heavy weapons from this position." Looked around at his team, pinned down by overwhelming firepower with no communications and no backup coming. In a few minutes, the enemy would start maneuvering to flank their position, and then it would all be over. They needed a miracle, or they needed a better marksman than Santos. Unfortunately, miracles were in short supply in the Mekong Delta. The machine gun fire intensified and realized they were running out of time. Whatever they were going to do, it had to happen fast, or none of them would be going home. The RPG round that changed everything came without warning. Heard the distinctive whoosh of the rocket-propelled grenade cutting through the air, followed by an explosion that seemed to shake the entire jungle. When the smoke cleared, he saw Santos lying motionless behind what remained of the tree he had been using for cover. "Medic!" shouted, forgetting operational security in the face of seeing his marksman down. Immediately began low-crawling towards Santos's position and laid down covering fire to keep the enemy's heads down. His mind raced through their rapidly diminishing options. Without Santos and his precision rifle, they had lost their only chance of neutralizing the heavy machine gun that was keeping them pinned down. The enemy would soon realize they had taken out the team's designated marksman, and then they would start moving to surround the remaining SEALs. Reached Santos and immediately began checking for wounds. His voice came through the comm system tight with concentration. "He's alive but unconscious. Looks like concussion from the blast. His rifle took shrapnel damage. Scope is completely destroyed." Felt their situation shift from difficult to desperate. Santos was their best shot, the one man who might have been able to take out enough of the enemy gunners to give them a fighting chance. Now they were 5 effective operators against at least 16 hostiles in prepared positions, with no way to call for help and no clear route of escape. "Sir, we need to move," his voice called out as another burst of machine gun fire raked their position. "They're going to start flanking us any minute now." New was right, but he also knew that moving would mean abandoning any chance of completing their mission. Would escape, the intelligence network that had identified him would be compromised, and who knew how many innocent people would die from the weapons he would continue to supply to terrorist organizations. Had been monitoring enemy radio traffic through a scanner. His report made their situation even worse. "Sir, they're calling for reinforcements. Sounds like another 12 men are en route from a secondary location. ETA approximately 15 minutes. Did the math quickly. Even if they could somehow neutralize the current opposition, they would soon be facing nearly 30 enemy fighters in prepared positions. The mission was becoming impossible, but surrendering or retreating wasn't in the SEAL vocabulary. A new sound cut through the jungle noise, different from the automatic weapons fire and explosions. It was the sharp crack of a high-powered rifle, but it wasn't coming from Santos's position. The sound came from somewhere behind the enemy compound, and it was followed immediately by one of the guard tower machine guns falling silent. What the hell was that? His voice came through the comm system, confusion evident even in his whisper. Raised his binoculars and scanned the area beyond the compound. The jungle was thick, providing countless hiding spots for a sniper, but he couldn't see any muzzle flash or movement that would indicate where the shot had come from. All he knew was that someone had just taken out one of the enemy gun positions with a single shot. Another crack echoed through the jungle, and the second guard tower went dark. This time caught a glimpse of muzzle flash, but it came from an impossible angle. The shot seemed to originate from somewhere near the river, at least 500 meters away. Making that shot through jungle vegetation with enough precision to take out a machine gunner would require skills beyond anything had seen in his 8 years with the teams. The enemy fighters in the compound were clearly confused by the new development. Their radio chatter increased dramatically as they tried to figure out where the shots were coming from. The disciplined fire that had been keeping the SEALs pinned down became sporadic and unfocused as the defenders tried to watch in all directions at once. Saw the opportunity immediately. "Sir, whatever's happening, their fire discipline just went to hell. If we're going to move, now's our chance." Made a quick decision. "Get Santos ready to move. You're with me. We're going to use this distraction to get closer to the compound." As the team began to reposition, another rifle shot cracked through the jungle. This time it was followed by an explosion as what appeared to be a fuel depot behind the main building erupted in flames. The mysterious marksman hadn't just hit another target. He had identified a secondary objective that would severely hamper the enemy's ability to fight. And moved through the jungle with practiced efficiency, using every piece of cover available as they worked their way closer to the compound's perimeter. The enemy's attention was divided between searching for their original attackers and trying to locate the new sniper who was systematically dismantling their defenses. "Boss, this is getting weird," whispered as they paused behind a thick stand of bamboo. "Whoever that shooter is, he's not using standard tactics. Those shots are coming from positions that should be impossible to reach." Had to agree. The angles of the shots suggested the marksman was moving between firing positions with supernatural speed, or he was shooting from locations that tactical logic. Either way, the mysterious sniper was giving them the only chance they were likely to get. Another shot echoed through the jungle and saw one of the roving guards near the compound's main entrance drop instantly. The precision was incredible. Even from their closer position, could barely make out individual targets through the jungle vegetation. Whoever was out there had skills that bordered on the superhuman. His voice came through the comm system from their fallback position. "Sir, Santos is conscious but groggy. Says his head feels like someone hit it with a sledgehammer, but he can move if we need him to." Was about to respond when movement near the river caught his attention. Through his binoculars, he could see a figure emerging from the water like something out of a nightmare. The man was completely soaked, moving with fluid precision as he transitioned from the river to the jungle. He carried what appeared to be a custom sniper rifle, and even from a distance, could see that this was no ordinary soldier. The figure moved through the jungle with an economy of motion that spoke of decades of experience. Every step was purposeful, every movement calculated to provide maximum stealth while maintaining the ability to engage targets at long range. This wasn't just a skilled marksman. This was someone who had turned killing into an art form. Followed's gaze and let out a low whistle. "Boss, you seeing what I'm seeing? That guy just came out of the water like some kind of ghost." Nodded, unable to take his eyes off the mysterious figure. The man was positioning himself for another shot and realized he was about to witness something extraordinary. The angle was impossible, the target was barely visible through dense vegetation, and the range had to be at least 400 meters. No rational person would even attempt such a shot. The rifle cracked again, and the heavy machine gun that had been giving them so much trouble suddenly went silent. The mysterious marksman had somehow threaded a bullet through jungle vegetation thick enough to hide a truck, and taken out a gunner that couldn't even see clearly through his binoculars. As enemy radio chatter reached a fever pitch, realized they were witnessing the work of someone who operated on a completely different level than ordinary soldiers. This wasn't just superior training or better equipment. This was someone who had transcended normal human limitations through years of experience that most people couldn't even imagine. The compound's defenders were in complete disarray now, firing blindly into the jungle while trying to identify threats that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The disciplined defense that had trapped the SEAL team was crumbling under pressure from an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't fight. Made another quick decision. All units prepare to advance on the compound. Our mystery friend has given us an opening and we're going to take it. As the team began moving forward, couldn't help but wonder who their mysterious ally was and why he had chosen to help them. In the chaotic world of special operations, unexpected help usually came with unexpected complications. But right now, with their mission hanging in the balance and their lives on the line, was grateful for any assistance, no matter how mysterious its source might be. The advance toward the compound moved faster than had dared hope. With the enemy's heavy weapons neutralized and their defenders confused and demoralized, the SEAL team was able to close the distance using standard small unit tactics. Planted charges on the main gate while and provided overwatch from flanking positions. Santos, despite his concussion, insisted on carrying his damaged rifle. Though the scope was destroyed and the barrel was slightly bent, he claimed he could still make close-range shots if necessary. Admired the man's determination, but he knew their marksman was operating at maybe 50% capacity. As they prepared to breach the compound, another shot cracked through the jungle. This time saw the result immediately. A guard who had been moving toward their position from the rear of the compound dropped instantly. Their mysterious ally was still out there, still watching their backs, still eliminating threats with precision. That explanation. "Breach in 10 seconds, whispered into his comm as he prepared to detonate the charges. 3, 2, 1, execute. The explosion that followed was perfectly calculated to destroy the gate without bringing down surrounding structures. Had placed the charges with surgical precision, creating an opening just wide enough for the team to enter in tactical formation, while minimizing collateral damage to the buildings where might be hiding. Led the charge through the smoking gateway, his M4 rifle sweeping for targets as the team flowed into the compound like water. The courtyard was larger than it had appeared from outside, with multiple buildings arranged around a central area that provided numerous hiding places for defenders. Moved left toward what appeared to be a barracks building, while went right toward a structure that intelligence had identified as a communications center. Santos, despite his injuries, found a position where he could cover both approaches with his damaged rifle, and headed straight for the main building where their target was most likely hiding. The first floor of the main building was eerily quiet. Expected resistance, but the rooms they cleared were empty except for the lingering smell of fear and abandoned equipment. Maps were scattered across tables, radio equipment was still turned on, and there were signs that people had left in a hurry. "Sir, barracks building is clear," his voice came through the comm. "Looks like they had about 20 men here, but everyone's gone. Weapons and gear scattered all over the place like they grabbed what they could and ran." Reported similar findings from the communications center. "Radio room is abandoned, but the equipment is still warm. Whoever was here left within the last few minutes." Felt a growing sense of unease. The compound had been heavily defended just minutes ago, but now it seemed like the defenders had simply vanished. Either their mysterious sniper ally had been even more effective than realized, or something else was happening that he didn't understand. Was examining the stairway that led to the upper floors of the main building. "Boss, these stairs look rigged. I'm seeing wires that definitely weren't put there by the original builders." Moved closer to examine's findings. Sure enough, thin wires were barely visible along the edges of each step, connected to what appeared to be a sophisticated booby trap system. Wasn't just hiding upstairs. He was prepared to bring the entire building down rather than be captured. "Can you disable it?" asked. Studied the mechanism carefully, his trained eye following the wires to their source. "Maybe, but it's going to take time. This isn't some amateur job with dynamite and a tripwire. Whoever set this up knew what they were doing." As began the delicate work of disarming the booby trap, heard something that made his blood run cold. From somewhere above them came the sound of a helicopter approaching. The distinctive whop-whop-whop of rotor blades grew louder by the second, and realized their target might be preparing to escape by air. "All units, we've got a bird incoming," announced through the comm system. "Might be planning an aerial extraction." His voice crackled back immediately. "Sir, I can see it from here. Looks like a civilian helicopter, but it's flying military patterns, coming in fast and low from the northeast. Made a quick calculation. If needed another 5 minutes to clear the booby trap, and the helicopter was already approaching for landing, would be gone before they could reach him. 8 hours of planning, 6 hours of infiltration, and 2 men wounded, all for nothing. That's when the mysterious sniper made his presence known in the most dramatic way possible. The approaching helicopter was still at least 1,000 meters away when the sharp crack of the high-powered rifle echoed across the compound. Watched in amazement as the aircraft's tail rotor simply disintegrated, sending the helicopter into an uncontrolled spin. The pilot fought to maintain control, but without the tail rotor, the aircraft was doomed. It spun wildly as it lost altitude, finally crashing into the jungle about 200 meters from the compound. The explosion that followed sent a column of black smoke rising above the canopy. "Jesus Christ," muttered, pausing in his work on the booby trap. Did that guy just take down a helicopter with a rifle shot? Had seen a lot of incredible marksmanship in his career, but shooting out a helicopter's tail rotor at that range, while the aircraft was moving at full speed, was beyond anything he thought was humanly possible. Whoever their mystery ally was, he operated at a level that conventional understanding of sniper capabilities. Santos's voice came through the comm, filled with professional admiration. "Sir, I've been shooting for 12 years, and I wouldn't even attempt that shot. The lead time alone would be nearly impossible to calculate, and that's assuming perfect conditions. Whoever that guy is, he's not playing by the same rules as the rest of us." With the helicopter down and its escape route eliminated, refocused on the immediate problem. "How much longer on those charges?" 2 more minutes, maybe 3 if I don't want to blow us all to hell," replied, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool jungle air. "This system is tied into the building's structural supports. If I mess this up, the whole place comes down." Weighed their options. They could wait for it to safely disarm the booby trap, but every minute they delayed gave more time to find another escape route or prepare additional surprises. Alternatively, they could try to find another way to the upper floors, but that might trigger the trap system from an unexpected angle. The decision was made for them when urgent voice cut through the comm system. "Sir, we've got movement in the crashed helicopter. Looks like at least one survivor and he's armed." Realized that might not have been in the helicopter at all. The aircraft could have been bringing in additional security or preparing for a later extraction. If the arms dealer was still in the building above them, they needed to reach him before he found another way out. "Check out that crash site but maintain safe distance," ordered. "Unknown number of survivors, assume hostile intent. 30 more seconds, then we go up those stairs whether the charges are disarmed or not." As worked frantically to complete the delicate disarming process, heard something that changed everything. From the upper floors of the building came the sound of voices speaking in English with American accents. Either had American associates, or there were other people in the building who might not be hostile. Looked up from his work with an expression of grim satisfaction. "Got it, boss. Charges are disarmed. But I'm keeping my finger on the detonator just in case we need to bring this place down on our way out." Nodded and began climbing the stairs, his rifle ready for whatever they might encounter on the upper floors. Behind him, followed with the same careful precision he brought to all his work. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to let their target slip away now. As they reached the second-floor landing, could hear the voices more clearly. One was definitely American, speaking with what sounded like a Southern accent. The other voice was responding in heavily accented English that could have been Russian. The conversation sounded tense, like a negotiation that wasn't going well. Signaled for to cover the hallway while he moved toward the source of the voices. Whatever was happening on the 3rd floor, they were about to find out whether their mission would end in success or disaster. Either way, they were committed now, and there was no turning back. The voices from the 3rd floor grew more distinct as they climbed the final staircase. Through the thin walls, could make out what sounded like an argument between at least 3 different people. The American voice was calm and professional, the Russian voice was agitated and desperate, and there was a 3rd voice that couldn't quite identify. Paused at the top of the stairs and hand-signaled to cover the left side of the hallway while he took the right. The building's upper floor was laid out differently than the floors below, with what appeared to be a large central room surrounded by smaller offices. Light was coming from under the door of the central room, and that's where the voices seemed to be originating. As they moved closer, began to make out individual words. The American voice was saying something about terms of the agreement, while the Russian voice kept repeating this was not the deal. The third voice, when it spoke, was so quiet could barely hear it, but there was something familiar about the tone. Positioned himself beside the door while prepared to breach. They had trained for this exact scenario hundreds of times, but every real-world application brought its own unique challenges. Held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1, and then kicked the door open with flowing through behind him. The scene inside the room was not what it expected. Colonel, identifiable from the photographs in their mission briefing, was seated behind a large wooden desk with his hands raised. Across from him stood a man in an expensive suit who was clearly American, holding a briefcase in one hand and a pistol in the other. And between them, standing with his back to the door, was a figure in wet camouflage who realized had to be their mysterious sniper ally. "Don't move," shouted, his rifle trained on the American while covered the mysterious figure. "Hands where I can see them." The man in the suit slowly raised his hands, but his expression showed more annoyance than fear. "Lieutenant Commander, I presume? You're a little late to the party." Felt a chill run down his spine. The American knew his name and rank, which meant this wasn't a coincidental encounter. Someone had fed this man detailed intelligence about their mission, and was beginning to understand why their communications had been jammed and why the compound had been so heavily defended. The figure in camouflage turned slowly and got his first clear look at their mysterious ally. The man appeared to be in his 50s, with gray hair and weathered features that spoke of decades spent in hostile environments. His eyes were pale blue and seemed to look right through, evaluating him the same way was evaluating potential threats. "You can lower your weapons," the mysterious figure said in a voice that carried unmistakable authority. "The situation is under control." Kept his rifle trained on the group while trying to process what was happening. "Who are you, and what's your connection to our mission?" The man in camouflage smiled slightly, but it wasn't a warm expression. "My name is Colonel John Macready, United States Army, retired. As for my connection to your mission, let's just say I have a vested interest in making sure Colonel doesn't leave this jungle alive." The American in the suit lowered his hands slightly and addressed directly. "Commander, I'm Agent David Sterling, CIA. This operation has been running for 6 months, and your team just walked into the middle of a carefully orchestrated intelligence-gathering operation." Felt his world shifting under his feet. Either he was being told the truth, and his team had just compromised a major CIA operation, or he was being fed an elaborate cover story by people who wanted to eliminate both his team and their target. Either way, his simple snatch-and-grab mission had become something much more complicated. Kept his rifle trained on the group while speaking quietly into his comm unit. "Report status. We've got a situation up here that's beyond our mission parameters." His voice came back immediately. "Sir, crash site is secure. 1 survivor, but he's unconscious. Found some interesting equipment in the wreckage, though. Looks like sophisticated surveillance gear, not standard transportation equipment." His report was equally puzzling. "Sir, I found a hidden tunnel system under the barracks building. Looks like it connects to multiple buildings in the compound and extends toward the river. This place is a lot more complex than intelligence indicated." Realized they were dealing with a situation that was several layers deeper than anyone had briefed them. The compound wasn't just a hiding place for an arms dealer. It was a sophisticated intelligence operation with connections that reached all the way back to American agencies. Sterling set his briefcase on the desk and opened it slowly, revealing stacks of documents and what appeared to be recording equipment. "Commander, everything that's happened here tonight has been documented. Colonel has been providing information about terrorist arms networks for the past 3 months in exchange for immunity and relocation." Spoke for the first time since had entered the room, his English heavily accented but clear. "I am not criminal you think I am. I work with American intelligence to stop real terrorists, people who kill innocent civilians for religion and politics." Looked at Macready, who had remained silent during this exchange. The retired colonel was studying with an expression that suggested he was measuring him against some internal standard. Finally, Macready spoke. "Commander, in about 10 minutes, a helicopter will arrive to extract Agent Sterling and his asset. Your team can either be on that helicopter as passengers, or you can remain here and explain to your superiors why you interfered with a classified CIA operation. Felt trapped between competing loyalties. His orders had been clear: capture or eliminate. But if was actually working for American intelligence, completing that mission would make guilty of killing a valuable asset and destroying an ongoing operation. Moved closer to and spoke quietly. Boss, something doesn't feel right about this. I've worked with CIA before, and they don't usually involve retired Army colonels in their operations. Had to agree. Macready's presence was the one element that didn't fit the story Sterling was telling. CIA agents worked with foreign assets all the time, but bringing in retired military personnel suggested something beyond standard intelligence gathering. Sterling seemed to sense hesitation. Commander, I understand your confusion. Colonel Macready was brought in specifically because of his expertise with arms dealers in this region. He spent 15 years tracking weapons smugglers through Southeast Asia before his retirement. Macready's smile returned, but this time it seemed genuinely amused. Agent Sterling, I think it's time you told the commander the whole truth. Sterling's expression changed immediately, shifting from confident to wary. Realized there was another layer to this operation that Sterling hadn't revealed, and Macready was about to expose it. The truth, Commander, is that Agent Sterling isn't CIA at all, Macready said calmly. He's a private contractor working for people who want to eliminate before he can testify about American companies that have been illegally supplying weapons to terrorist organizations. Felt everything click into place. Sterling's knowledge of their mission, the sophisticated jamming equipment, the heavy security at the compound, it had all been designed to eliminate both and the SEAL team that had been sent to capture him. They weren't witnessing an intelligence operation. They were supposed to be victims of an elaborate assassination plot. Raised his rifle towards Sterling as understanding dawned. Sir, this whole thing's been a setup from the beginning. Macready nodded approvingly. That's right, Chief, and the only reason any of you are still alive is because someone wanted to make sure this particular contractor didn't complete his mission. Realized that Macready hadn't been helping them complete their mission at all. He had been protecting them from a trap that would have killed them all, and buried the truth about illegal arms sales that reached into the highest levels of American defense contracting. Their mysterious sniper ally had saved their lives, but the mission they thought they were on had never existed in the first place. Sterling's hand moved slowly toward his weapon, but Macready's rifle was already aimed at his center of mass. The retired colonel's movements were fluid and precise, the result of decades of experience in situations exactly like this one. Realized he was watching someone who had spent his entire career dealing with people who lived in the gray areas between law and criminality. I wouldn't recommend it, Mr. Sterling, Macready said quietly. I've been tracking you and your organization for 2 years now. Tonight was just the night I finally had enough evidence to act. Looked confused, switching his gaze between the Americans as he tried to understand what was happening. I do not understand. If you are not CIA, then who are you working for? Sterling's facade finally cracked completely. His professional demeanor disappeared, replaced by the cold calculation of a man who killed for money rather than country. It doesn't matter who I work for, Colonel. What matters is that you've become a liability to some very powerful people. Felt pieces of a larger puzzle falling into place. The intelligence that led us here, the communications jamming, the heavy security, it was all designed to make sure none of us left this jungle alive. Macready nodded grimly. Your mission was legitimate, Commander, but someone in the chain of command made sure the intelligence was modified. Instead of a simple extraction, you were sent into a kill box. Sterling's job was to eliminate both you and then clean up any evidence that might implicate his employers. Kept his rifle trained on Sterling while speaking into his comm unit. We need immediate extraction coordination. Mission parameters have changed completely. His voice crackled back through the comm system. Sir, we've got problems. That helicopter crash survivor just regained consciousness and he's asking for someone named Sterling. Says he's got backup en route. Realized their situation was far from resolved. Sterling might be exposed, but he apparently had additional resources in the area. The SEAL team was still outnumbered and cut off from their normal support networks. Macready seemed to read's thoughts. Commander, I've been operating in this area for 6 months, preparing for tonight. My extraction plan includes your team, but we need to move fast. Sterling's backup will be here within the hour. Sterling laughed bitterly. You think you've won something here, Macready? The people I work for don't forgive failure and they don't leave loose ends. Even if you get out of this jungle alive, they'll find you eventually. Macready's expression didn't change, but caught something dangerous in his pale blue eyes. Mr. Sterling, the people you work for made a fatal mistake when they decided to use American as expendable assets. Some things are more important than money. Stood up slowly from behind his desk, his hands still raised. Colonel Macready, if what you say is true, then I am in even more danger than I thought. The information I have about weapons sales could destroy many powerful people. Made a command decision. You're coming with us. If you've got intelligence that can expose illegal arms sales, then American intelligence agencies need to hear it. The real ones, not contractors like Sterling. Macready moved toward the window and looked out at the jungle. Commander, we've got movement at the perimeter. Looks like Sterling's backup arrived early. At least 8 men moving in tactical formation. Felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with being outnumbered and surrounded. This was what SEALs trained for, the moment when superior training and teamwork had to overcome superior numbers and firepower. What's our ammunition status? Did a quick count of his remaining magazines. Enough for a good fight, sir, but not enough for a prolonged engagement. If we're going to move, it needs to be soon. Macready pulled a detailed map from his pocket and spread it on his desk. There's a boat hidden in a tributary about half a mile from here. It's not fast, but it'll get us to an extraction point where we can call for proper support. Studied the map quickly, memorizing the route and identifying potential where they might be forced to make a stand. Prepare for immediate extraction from current positions. We're moving to new coordinates in 2 minutes. Sterling was watching the preparations with obvious amusement. You're all dead men walking. My people know exactly where that boat is, and they know exactly where you think you're going. This jungle is going to be your grave. Macready zip-tied Sterling's hands behind his back with practiced efficiency. Mr. Sterling, you're going to be our insurance policy. Your people might be willing to sacrifice you, but I doubt they want to risk you talking to American authorities. As the team prepared to leave the building, realized he still didn't fully understand Macready's role in all this. Colonel, who exactly are you working for? If you're retired Army, what's your interest in stopping arms dealers? Macready shouldered his rifle and checked his equipment one final time. Commander, 3 years ago my son was killed in Afghanistan by an IED made with explosives that were supposed to be destroyed after the Iraq War. Instead, they were sold to the highest bidder by American contractors who valued profit over the lives of American soldiers. Understood completely. This wasn't just about stopping illegal arms sales. It was about justice for soldiers who had been betrayed by the very system they had sworn to defend. Macready wasn't working for any agency or organization. He was working for every American serviceman who had been killed by weapons that should never have reached enemy hands. Finished rigging the building with explosives from his pack. Sir, charges are set. Once we're clear, this whole place disappears along with any evidence Sterling's people might want to recover. Macready nodded approvingly. Good thinking, Chief. We want to make sure they understand the cost of using American soldiers as expendable assets. As gunfire erupted outside the building, realized their escape was going to be anything but easy. Sterling's backup had found them faster than expected, and now they were trapped in a building surrounded by hostile forces with limited ammunition and a long way to go before reaching safety. His voice came through the comm system, urgent but controlled. Sir, multiple contacts approaching from 3 directions. They're trying to surround the compound. Looked at his team, then at Macready, and 7 people against at least a dozen hostile contractors in unfamiliar jungle with no backup and no clear escape route. The odds were terrible, but they had faced worse before and survived. All right, people, said as bullets began hitting the building's walls. We came here to complete a mission. The mission's changed, but the job isn't finished. Let's show these contractors what happens when they mess with United States Navy SEALs. Macready smiled for the first time since had met him, and this time it was a warrior's smile, full of anticipation for the battle to come. Commander, it's been a long time since I've had the honor of fighting alongside America's finest. Let's make this interesting. As charges detonated and the building began to collapse behind them, led his team into the jungle night, knowing that somewhere ahead lay either salvation or death, but confident that whatever happened, they would face it together as warriors who had never learned the meaning of surrender.